It's a fusion kind of day. Hi everyone, welcome back to RC Pi and another Gladius update. As you've seen, I'm impressed with this truck and you know, it's worth doing a few things too. I don't need to throw loads of money at it because it's such a good truck, but it's just overcoming those few little weaknesses. So you saw last time that I had a look at the brass, and you can add those brass pieces because it is the same, exactly the same fitting as the TRX4 on the portal axles or the portal covers and the diff covers, the pumpkin covers. Now I have now removed those because I do want to run this as stock as possible for as long as possible, just to see, well, what it's like for your benefit. A little update from last time. I said that I was going to fix the body, showed you those issues with the body, and you can see here that I have used this fibre tape, sort of thing that you use for plasterboard or drywall in the States. So you just stick that on, cut a section out, stick it on wherever you've got a crack, or even better, where you think you're going to get a crack. Then smear some sort of glue on there. It could be shoe goo or E6000. This time, because I had it to hand, I've used this B7000, which is, you know, it's just another E6000, some Chinese version. I don't know where it came from. I think it was from Amazon, but it was cheap at the time, so I got that. So yeah, smear that over the fibre tape, and that should give you a strong but flexible connection to keep that body in place. So there we go, that's a fix done. It just needs to harden. I've only done that today, so it just needs to harden off a little bit. The thing that I do want to do today is sort out this speed controller problem. So the way I'm going to do that is by using one of these. Now, I don't know whether you've used a Fusion. I've got a Fusion Pro in my Hobby Tech. So there are 3 Fusion setups, and basically the Fusion is a brushless motor and a speed controller combined, so you don't have a separate speed controller unit. So it's all inside the motor can. So they do 3 versions. They do the Pro, which is the most powerful and the most expensive, and it's a 550 size. This is the Fusion SE, of which there are 2. So there's a 1200 kV and there's an 1800 kV. This is the 1800. Now the 1200 might be good for a scaler where you don't want all the power, but the 1800 is going to give you a little bit more power. And the nice thing with this 1800 over the Pro is that it's a 540 size can. So if you've got a car that's got a bit of a tight space for a motor, then the Fusion SE may well fit where the Fusion Pro won't. So what do we get in here? Well, in case you've not opened one of these before, let's get it out of the box and show you. So you get your motor with the speed controller built in. So it's a nice sealed can. It's got a nice long XT60 lead. That needs to be quite long because, of course, your motor may be far away from where your battery normally would be. In this, it's okay. Your servo lead, well, your servo cable to go to your receiver for channel 2, and you've got a power switch on the end of this other wire. Now, it might be a good idea to take this apart and waterproof it, because I know people have had issues where the motor is surviving quite happily through whatever abuse you give it, but the power switch has taken on water, gone rusty, and yeah, failed. So that might be something worth thinking about. But it's a nice clean unit. You also get a servo cable extension, again in case your receiver is a long way away from your motor. And what else? A zip tie, a bit of double-sided adhesive, and if I can get it out of the box, an instruction manual, because you can program your motor, which is quite a cool feature as well. So let's get this in. So on the Gladius, very straightforward. I've already taken these 3 bolts out, but yeah, just using your regular 2 meter, wow, that would be huge, 2mm hex. You've got 3 bolts here on the pinion and spur cover, 1 at each side, 1 in the middle, and then that cover just lifts straight out and allows you to pull the motor out, which is mounted on this kind of spacer plate. So it's got all the different holes in it which help you to space your pinion. They're fixed spacing so that your pinion is the right distance from your spur gear. So I'm going to just take those off. Well, I'm going to take the spur gear off, not the spur gear. I'm going to take the pinion gear off. Again, that's a 2mm hex on there, so that can come straight off. Well, I've just had a bit of a nightmare. My RC week is not going very well. So I took the stock motor out and tried to take the pinion off the motor to use on the Fusion, and the grub screw stripped. I don't know how it had been mounted, what it had been mounted with, or who by, or what by, but that was ridiculous. So that stripped, and I was thinking it'll just have to live on there now. But then I decided I would have a go, and I drilled it out, and then you've got to get the bits out, the burrs. But I've done it, I've got it out. So now let's swap this plate over. So just making a point of looking where it's currently mounted. So we've got letters through from A to H. So it's currently mounted on C. So that's obviously for this 11 tooth pinion. So I'm going to take these out. Hopefully not strip any more heads. I mean, these feel quite tight. This one's not too bad. I mean, in one way, it's nice to see that some sort of thread lock has been used, if that's the case, or maybe it's just somebody in a factory that's got over exuberant with some sort of power driver, and that's what this one feels like. I'm going to see if I've got a slightly oversized Allen key here. So I've just got that off, and the way I've got that off, I decided I didn't want to just use a driver or a normal Allen key, because I didn't trust it, and I've done it just with some pliers, and I'm glad I did, because it would have stripped. Because looking at this, it's not thread lock, it's like, well, it's been glued, which isn't good. So I'm going to pass that on that that is not a good practice in the factory. It's probably not something anyone is expected to encounter, but that is not any sort of normal thread lock that I've seen, and I do not like that. You know, you don't want to go beyond a blue thread lock, or you're just going to strip everything. It's a bit naughty, that. Right, so that's out. I want to get this screwed onto the Fusion. Now you get six holes on that motor, so you've got a good choice of where these cables are going to come out, which is quite nice. Because it is, looking at this, it's going to be quite a tight fit. So I think I might have to have it coming out sideways, not sure. Comparing it to this motor, oh no, it is actually shorter. This might be interesting. The axle, the central shaft seems to be a bit shorter. It also is thicker. So for all that work, I still can't get that pinion onto that shaft. I think I'm sick of RC cars this week. Right, day 2 of this very, very simple and quick job of getting this motor in. So, although I got the pinion off the shaft of the original motor, and I even drilled out the stripped grub screw and got all the burrs out, and it was perfect. Got another grub screw in, then found that I couldn't get it on the shaft of this Hobbywing, this Fusion, because the shaft was slightly too big, which is a bit weird because it's not actually that big. So I've got myself a Team Corally or Corally, or I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. If anyone knows for sure, and I don't mean just how you've always said it, but if you know somebody at the factory, something like that, let me know, how do you say it? Is it Corally or Corally or anything else? But yeah, this is well, it's a 32 DP pinion, that's the pitch, and all my other pinions are 48 pitch that I've been accumulating for the last 35 years. So this is a 12 tooth, whereas my other one was an 11 tooth. So when I took this motor mounting spacer, made sure I got the screws back in so I knew where they were supposed to be. This is no longer right. So I thought, how am I going to know which slot to put it in? Obviously you look in the manual, it's not in the manual. So with everything else being basically a Traxxas copy, I thought I'd have a look at the Traxxas manual, and yeah, it's the same. So they were in slot, or in holes C for an 11 tooth, so they need to move along one to slot D, holes D for 12 tooth. So I'm going to mount it to that, and it should be straightforward, shouldn't be an issue. So we've got that mounted to the spacer plate, I don't know what you'd call it, but motor mounting plate, that'll do. Now I need to make sure that the pinion is going to align properly with the spur gear. So just put it in place, get an idea as a starting point. Now, as with putting any pinion on, one of the things that you have to remember is, even if your pinion is much narrower than your spur gear, you need to make sure that it's mounted far enough on, one way or the other, so that the grub screw isn't going to interfere with the teeth of the spur gear. So having got that right, I am now going to unscrew this mounting plate again, because I want my cables to go out slightly upwards. So they want to come out to this side because of where the motor mounts, but I want them to go slightly upwards. Now, the nice thing with the Fusion SE is it's got 6 mounting holes, so I'm just going to take those out and move them round one. Right, so if you are looking at the front of your Fusion, that is the angle that I would recommend setting up your cables on this mounting plate. It's going to give you the most space down at the front of the gearbox. So just drop that in. It's a nice easy fit. Slots in, and then we can put this cover back on and get it bolted into place. Right, now that's in, I'll give it a quick test. Put the battery in. What I haven't done is plug that into the, let's get my glasses, plug that into the channel 2 on the receiver, turn on the transmitter. Where's my power switch? I've not decided where to mount that. Turn that on. And we should. Got a reversed throttle, so I'll flick the throttle reverse on there, and we should have very well modulated FOC movement. There we go. That should give us better top end and better bottom end, and make the batteries last longer as well. So the only thing left to do is to remove this horrible speed controller. That's not needed anymore. So pull that out. There we go, done. Decide on somewhere to fasten this. See, the only annoying thing with Fusions and some other speed controllers actually that have this sort of push button power switch is not all cars have somewhere nice to mount them. You know, on some, if they've not got the inner fenders, then you can mount them on the skid plates and you can reach up underneath through the wheel arch, but you can't do that if you've got the inner fenders. So I'm not sure where I'm going to put this. I'll probably take it apart and waterproof it, and then it needs attaching somewhere handy. So I'll figure that out, I'll let you know. But for now, that's my little round of upgrading this. we'll get it out. You'll see the results, I'm sure. Hopefully that's been useful for you. If it has, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think or what you're doing with your Gladius. And we will hopefully see you soon on RC Pi. Thanks for watching.